Welcome back to Amazin But True, New York Mets podcast from the New York Post. Jake Brown here at Jake Brown Radio alongside Nelson Figueroa at Figgy and follow the program at Amazin But True on Twitter and watch us on the New York Post Sports YouTube page. Find that Amazin But True playlist or subscribe wherever you get podcasts. Here. And what else? It's just a sigh. Justin Verlander. We never knew you. He gone. Max Scherzer. We barely knew you. Tommy Pham. We barely knew you. Mark Canha. We barely knew you. Dominic Leone. We don't really care about you. But
that ain't right. It ain't wrong, but it ain't right.
David Robertson. We loved you, but we barely knew you. This trade deadline is the shifting of a franchise. It is a franchise that went from 101 wins in the playoffs to a quote that had me losing sleep last night. We'll put together a competitive team next season. Okay. But our projections from Vegas, Baseball Prospectus, all those sites will not be what it was for the Mets this year and last year, which is the quote of a loser, Billy Eppler. And on top of all that, Nelson Figueroa, Verlander traded to the Astros. Astros throw a no-hitter. And the Mets lose on a walk-up balk to the Royals by a minor leaguer who forgot the pitch com. Who are these bums? We got to watch 2 months of this crap. Inexcusable. Rough day, rough life. Take it away.
Yeah. Listen, for all intents and purposes, what happened at the trade deadline at least had a direction and a vision. You were complaining so much about the farm system because your major league team was underperforming. You have pieces and players down in the minor leagues, like a Mauricio, who could help you. But that wasn't the problem, right? So you went out and said, we've spent a lot of money and we'll continue to spend a lot of money because that money was already budgeted and already spent. So a repurposing of assets is what it was called. So you got back, your return on investment was younger players who project to be very good players in the near future. However, and of which it makes your team worse now. And when you start telling fans and other people, like, you know, the guy you traded away, that we're not going to compete next year, it's the wrong message to send. Absolutely the wrong message to send.
Let's be clear. He said we'll be competitive, but when you and I say compete, we talk about a championship. This isn't the Wilpons, this is the Cohen. When we say compete, we're saying fighting for a championship. So what Eppler is essentially saying with competitive, Figgy, if I'm not mistaken, is maybe we'll be around 500, maybe compete for a wild card spot, but in no way do we have any chance for a division or a World Series is essentially what he's saying.
Well, you have expanded playoffs now. So being competitive means you've got a shot at the playoffs. And wasn't that what we were talking about anyway with this team from the beginning? And he even goes back to his first year. The Vegas projections for that first year that he was here was not winning the World Series. Is that what you do? You're just building a team like it's a video game to see if it projects well? No. You've got to find a way to get this team to perform well through the ups and downs, the ins and outs. And when you talk about the farm system, now at least they went out and got 10 players who project in their top 10, right? You look at like they just revamped their whole farm system. They just got 10 top 10 players for their farm system, not everybody else's maybe, but for their farm system. So now you have those pieces. But their ETA to the major leagues is all different, right? Some of these projections and some of these prospects, and I'll give you an example. 2019, the Mets ranking of their system had Pete Alonso as number 1, Andres Jimenez as number 2. Mauricio was number 3 way back then in 2019. Vientos was number 4. Shervin Newton, who's with Kansas City now, was their number 5. David Peterson was the 6th. Simeon Woods Richardson was their number 7, who's with the Minnesota Twins now. Anthony Kay was their number 8, but moved on to the Chicago Cubs now. Zapucki, your boy, was number 9. Number 10 was Franklin Quinome. Desmond Lindsay, who was their second-round draft pick out of Connecticut, you'll never hear from him. I believe he's done playing. So if you look at that list, number 13 was Francisco Alvarez. The next year, he jumps up to number 2 on that list. So you can see prospects make jumps. You can also see prospects fall off. That's it's potluck. It's a crapshoot. And so what you did was you traded away your number 1 pitcher, your ace, who was pitching like an ace in Verlander, and you got back 2 outfielders who project well. I get that. But do they project Hall of Fame, ace of the staff, leader in the clubhouse mentality kind of guy? Well, absolutely not. So for all intents and purposes, everywhere you look, it is being said that they won the trade deadline. It doesn't feel that way. It doesn't feel that way when you're told that the team isn't where they were when Vegas set the odds. Nobody cares about that because there are teams right now battling for the playoffs, Anaheim being one of them, who went all in to try and make a push, and they're leapfrog the Yankees now, and they're moving in the right direction, and they have Shohei Ohtani, and they're trying to convince Shohei Ohtani to stay based on how they make this run towards the playoffs, right? Baseball isn't about projections and things on paper and the analytics. It's about human beings, how they play, how they are able to deal with adversity, how they deal with the media on a daily basis, asking them about, did they get their World Series tickets already in February when, the team is put together. Things like that, man. It just drives you crazy to see the change of direction, the U-turn, right? But the future is bright. The future might not be, though, until 2025, 2026.
And we'll get into the future. Here's the Mets traded Justin Verlander. They get the Astros' number 1 prospect in Drew Gilbert, an outfielder, 22 years old in Double-A this year. Has been okay in Double-A, not raking, but having a decent year. He was their number 1. Listen, you had to get him. The people applauding Billy Eppler, it's a good job. You traded Justin Verlander. I wouldn't expect anything less than the return they got. They also get the number 4 prospect in the Astro system, Ryan Clifford the big red dog. Some people saying that he might turn out being better than Gilbert. Who the hell knows? Like you said, it's projection. Some of these guys, you went through those guys, might never touch the major leagues, and when they do, they might crap the bed. So these guys could either be here, or they could be lifelong major leaguers working in the offseason at Dick's Sporting Goods and selling knives like Jehovah's Witnesses at your door in New Jersey. They could be running a Ponzi scheme, coming to your door and selling an overpriced pair of knives and telling you to deal. They could be in an infomercial in December when the season's over because the minor leagues don't pay enough. So let's not talk about these guys like they're going to be future Hall of Famers. They're prospects. They also trade Tommy Pham. They get a kid that can't even get lottery tickets yet. Tommy Pham was supposed to be this big sell. Who they get? A 17-year-old play in the Dominican League. J-Rod, not Julio Rodriguez, Jeremy Rodriguez. So they get him for Tommy Pham. So all that about Tommy Pham, and they got nothing. This might have been the best pull. The Mets trade Dominic Leone to the Angels for Jeremiah Jackson, who going into the year was the Angels' number 9 prospect. Doesn't say much because it's a post Billy Eppler farm system. But they get a guy who's in Double-A doing okay, 12 homers, 56 RBIs, 23-year-old. That might have been their best pull, Figgy, in getting him. And then they traded Mark Canha to the Brewers. They get pitcher Justin Jarvis, who was the number 30th prospect in the Brewers.
I feel like I'm watching an episode of the Duggars. How many J's have they gotten? Jeremiah,
it's like the ones that's smoking in your background of your screen.
Every player you mentioned has a J in their name. This is a little weird. Go ahead.
Yeah, it's and every play, almost every other one is a shortstop. I mean, how many? This organization has to trade about 89 shortstops now. I get it. They can move positions. Everyone's are, the freaking nerds. You don't draft playing position. You get that's talent possible. You need pitchers. You have Senga Quintana. Is anyone else home? Is anyone else home? Anyone? Not all these free agents are going to want to come to the Mets. I'm sorry. Urias, Kershaw, Mania. I'm sorry. They're going to end up with Michael Lorenzen, Alex Wood, and another fringe starter. And that's what Billy Eppler seemed like he was essentially saying. Because
isn't that what the Angels rotation usually looks like?
Yes. This is
Ta-da.
Angels 2.0 minus Ohtani. And now if they get Ohtani, a lot of this yelling and screaming goes out the door, and we're having a parade, because then you get your DH and you get your ace. So getting Ohtani means everything. But one, saying that you aren't going to be as competitive next year feels like Ohtani's no chance, because if you get Ohtani, you're thinking about being a contender. That's how I look at it. So,
but right. But so here's my thing. The message that you send is the most important thing, because if you want to get Ohtani has long said he wants to win. He wants to play for a winner. He was stuck in Anaheim, right? Once he signed the contract and he got stuck in Anaheim, he was stuck there until now, where he gets to deem where he wants to go as a free agent. We don't even know if he wants to play on the East Coast. But if he wants to play on the East Coast and he wants to play for a winner, the Mets, as constructed currently, are not that team. The Marlins are constructed better and playing better. The Phillies are constructed better and playing better. The Braves. Imagine if the Braves can pull off the Ohtani for a DH and an ace of the staff.
Also, why would he want to come to New York? 1, 2, deal with this mess from top to bottom. 3, what is it like? What relationship? I just can't imagine Billy Eppler and Shohei Ohtani eating chicken parm and their boys dapping it up, taking shots at tequila. I'm sorry. It's the last thing in my brain for Billy Eppler, the politician. Like, what relationship does he have with him and his agent that he's going to listen to them? Sure, the money's going to talk. If the Mets offer $100 million more than every other team, maybe that is the determining factor. But I just don't see the relationship with Billy Eppler being enough to bring him in. And it seems like that's part of why they're keeping Eppler around, is to see if he can reel in the big fish.
Listen, that is not going to be the determining factor, because I don't know. I don't know of a relationship with a front office person I've ever had, or a GM especially, where it's like, oh my God, that guy's there, I want to go there, but I know the other team is going to pay me more money. No shot, right? So it's going to be the max dollars. It's going to be how far ahead or how far more, and probably 98 million, which is what they gave away, to trade and get back prospects. So while the repurposing thing is nice, a lot of young players, this doesn't happen if Steve Cohen, as a person who deals in finances and investments, doesn't say, you know what, the money's spent, do what you got to do. We can eat that cost. There's no other owner in baseball that would do that. None. Zero. Zip.
No other owner that would give the Astros $54 million to get rid of a pitcher who was pitching incredibly.
To take your ace.
They're paying him $29 million over 2.5 years. They got Justin Verlander at TJ Maxx. They're getting a Dollar Tree discount for one of the best pitchers of all time.
How does it work where you go, all right, guys, let's really get to the nuts and bolts of this deal. We'll give you Verlander. You give us your top prospect, and we'll throw in $54 million. What you got for us? Oh, we got another prospect, another outfielder. Okay, cool. That's good.
Give me some caviar with that,
my man. He's going to be there for the rest of this year and 2 more years. You couldn't get a prospect for each year? That should be 3 prospects, at least 1 pitching prospect. Even if you got to lie to me and say, well, this kid's projection, his spin rate, his, whatever it might be, really grades out well. I know his numbers don't say that, but we think, he could be the steal of this whole thing. Like you hear with the draft all the time, right? This guy's a steal of the draft. He could have been a first rounder. Great. Give me that guy. Instead, you only got 2 prospects. One of the 2 hopefully pan out. If none of the 2 pan out and $54 million, then you have to thank your lucky stars, Billy Eppler, that you have an owner who says, you know what? Sometimes you make good investments, sometimes you make bad investments. But for the long run, because he is now the owner until he deems otherwise, this isn't just an investment that's gone bad and now he's going to go away. Like this isn't Madoff taking 300 million, but this is 100 million and 2 aces gone. And you got back kids. I get it. I understand the move, but I'm not ready to sit here and applaud it because the reason that it happened was that Steve Cohen somehow can wake up today and go, I didn't need that money. I already spent it. 54 million. Is she back?
It's back.
When is her life mate coming? Isn't her life mate
in like next week when there's 7 fans in the building in a doubleheader against the Braves where they're going to lose 69-4 and they're going to commit 4 balks because they forgot the pitch calm in the bullpen, you loser. So cute. Lefty against the Royals. Let's bring in Josh Walker, Mike Stanton, right? Josh Walker Stanton coming into the game. No, he's a bum. Just keep Grant Hardwick, the president of the United States, in to blow it.
Yeah,
and I'll put on a heart. I have no heart and no wig.
Listen, that game.
That Grant, game no heart, no wig.
That game last night kind of summed it all up, didn't it? Isn't that a microcosm of the 2023 Mets?
Verlander, Astros no hitter, walk off balk by a minor leaguer. On top of Brent, there's more. I forgot. Brandon Nimmo hurt, cannot play. Ronny Mauricio still not freaking called up. I'm making
wait. Who they play instead?
By not
who they play instead?
An item at Taco Bell. I mean, Ortega, isn't that like an order? I mean, Rafael Ortega. Ooh. They play Ortega and Mr. Mendick, everyone's favorite player. I mean, the lineup. I mean, it looked like the Eric Campbell cleanup lineup from 2015 in June before the Mets went on a run. But Mauricio doesn't play. There's another. On top of that, Pete Alonso gets hit in the face by a ball. He slides for a pop-up, and the ball hits him on the chin. Jeff McNeil runs into a wall and looked like he was done for the year, and somehow wasn't. Someone else got hit in the chin by a ball. I mean, it was a comedy of errors in a game against a 35-win Royal team, which, they were pretty much evenly matched. It was like a 35-win looking Mets team versus an actual 35-win team. So like that was the circus. It was essentially like the Bananas versus whoever they play, except maybe even less talent than them. By the way, I'm going to go see them, that doubleheader at Citi Field. I will be going to the Bananas game at your old home in Staten Island there. So that'll be fun.
You're going to go down to Staten Island again.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to see the circus in Queens, so I said, let me go see a circus in Staten Island. Maybe I'll see a Guido on the way. Maybe I'll see Paulie D pumping his fist outside the stadium.
Listen, I think
we've lost our collective minds.
Staten Island, but whatever.
Same thing. It's the same Guidos in Staten Island. It's the girl I lost my virginity to, Guidette. She was a Guidette who loved the club.
Listen, on my bingo card, I did not have the girl you lost your virginity to on my bingo card.
Don't get me excited about bingo, because that's where I'm going to be the next 2 months, is your local bingo hall. Maybe you'll see Buck there. And that's the other angle of this, Figgy. Hart's brought it up before the show. Buck Showalter has 1 year left on his contract. If this team's not competing for a championship, sure, he'll get a cushy paycheck. But does he want to manage a team? And do the Mets want a veteran manager like him managing a team with a lot of young players that's not going to win a championship? Do you either can Buck, or does Buck say, hey, guys, can we say that, we mutually agree to part ways so I could get out of here, get my check, and go to Aruba next year, or go to MLB Network or wherever, maybe take a year off? Because I don't know if they're going to want that kind of manager managing a team that might have a Mauricio, that might have a Beatty and Alvarez, like these young guys, because I don't know if his message gets across like it would when it's a veteran-laden team like this year's squad that was expected to win.
Yeah, it's funny that you say that, and you're trying to wrap your head around the manager that was a 101 win manager of the year for the fourth time. Could he possibly do this with the younger generation being brought up and having to play because they traded away all the veterans? Could he do it? Absolutely. Is he the right man for the job? I still have very much faith in Buck and his abilities. To me, it's been a very weird season where I don't feel like he's in total command. I really don't. I really don't. There's just too many things. There's just too many instances. There's just not the you don't fall off with all the knowledge of baseball. He'll forget more baseball than we'll ever know. I don't see that being the case. And so for him, how many times has he done this where gotten a team to a place, gotten them close, and then the next year they go ahead and win the whole thing? So your contract is for 3 years. I think he wants to see it through. But a new president of baseball operations comes in and wants to make a change all up and down the board. He's going to be given that opportunity. So Billy Eppler, gone. Buck Showalter, gone. He might like a guy or a coach that he had in Milwaukee and wants to give them an opportunity to be able to, manage. But you go with a first-time manager. So you're looking at a lot of different things. Are you willing to do that? How much success has been had from that of a first-time manager going in and just being, given a team and everything else, and somebody outside the organization who maybe doesn't know anything? It's a very difficult thing. I just really am totally shocked that there was no president of baseball operations in place this whole while, and that you would do that. You know what I mean? Like that would be like saying we don't have a CEO. We have a manager here at Arby's, but there's no CEO of the main company. We're just gonna fly by and see if we can make it with it. So it was very weird for somebody of Steve Cohen's stature to not have that key component and that key person to have a vision in place, overlooking. Because one of the things that Billy Eppler said that kind of made me want to, open hand smack him to the face. We're shifting things from the team to the organization. What? I'm sorry.
He's a politician. The guy says things.
Is it still not the Mets?
Like, what is he saying half the time?
You just said we're switching basically our attention and our purpose of this year is no longer about the team, but about the organization.
It's unreal.
Having said that, their minor leagues have 0 winning seasons going on. 0. They don't teach winning anymore. They don't care about winning games. They care about exit velos. They care about spin rates. They don't teach guys how to win. They don't preach winning. It's a very individualized team concept down in the minor leagues. Mm-hmm. Worry about your damn self. Get your work in. Continue to try and hit the ball as hard as you can. Throw the ball and spin the ball as hard as you can. Don't worry about winning ball games. Somehow that's magically going to come together when you get to the big leagues.
But Figgy, I just want to be clear. It's not a rebuild. It's not a fire sale. It's not a liquidation. It's just the repurposing of Steve's investment in the club. Name that artist. I don't know why you mentioned Arby's, but now you got me hungry because as a growing up, I'm going to start talking about food adventures.
No, we're not. No, we're not. Over. Stay focused. We got a lot more stuff to talk about.
I know we do, but I used to eat their curly fries with chicken fingers religiously at the Trumbull Mall at Arby's. And I don't think I've had Arby's since I was a teenager. So shout out to Arby's. I'm just trying to get a chicken finger sponsor here. I might have to do one more live show at the Ocean. We'll be partying at the beach club with some of the Mets probably. They're going to leave the game. When they play the Phillies, they'll come over to Ocean and party with us. But the other aspect of this, the Mets also for cash actually got one of their maybe underrated moves because they needed arms, but could be some projects, but decent guys that they got to just give up money for was Phil Bickford and Adam Kolarek. Kolar's been in the big leagues, the lefties, for 6 years. Had a good year in AAA. He's only pitched inning in third this year. Bickford had a good year last year, struggled this year, but two relievers that could be interesting pieces, as in terms of like replacing some of the bums that we've seen here come out of the bullpen. So those moves I didn't hate, but that was kind of we desperately need arms, so let's go get a couple arms for a couple of dollars. But those are decent names that could be part of this team moving forward.
After the trades are all said and done, our GM sat back and said, "Oh my God, we don't have pitchers. 26 guys on the 26-man roster. Oh, we should get more guys."
Yeah, it's
who can we call up? Let me think. And this thing about starting Mauricio's clock or waiting to start his clock.
So that's let me say that tweet. Someone tweeted me August 19th, which they'll get an extra year of control if they wait till then. So essentially, today's August 2nd. The earliest it seems, if that's what they're thinking, the earliest we'll see him is around the 19th to 20th range.
My theory on this whole thing is if he's a big leaguer, he's going to be a big leaguer. If he's a star and you have an owner who has money, then he's going to be a star with your organization forever. What are you waiting for? That's a cost-cutting move that a small market team does, and does it well. You know what I mean? Like there's one guy that's all his job is to watch everyone's clock and how much time they are accumulating and when they get sent up and when they get sent down. I remember I was with the Astros when they were the cheap Stros, and they literally sent the guy that was leading the team in RBIs and the guy that was leading the team in home runs. They were young, and they sent them down to AAA. And they both came down to AAA with me, and I'm looking at them, and I go, "What did you guys do?" And they're like, "Bro, we have no idea why we got sent down." Literally leading the team, the big league team, they're leading in RBIs and leading in home runs. And so I said to them, "You do realize they're just trying to control you for another year. So you have to stay down here for like 3 weeks." And they were like, "Are you serious?" I said, "Oh yeah. Your agent didn't tell you that?" I go, "If they're able to control your clock, they get an extra year of your contract. So this way they don't have to pay you before they have to pay you." So you see what I'm saying? That's the one thing. If you're
he might be making up for all the money that he gave away for Verlander. Remember Robinson Cano too? Would they give $30 million plus to pay him off, $54 million to pay Verlander off? Scherzer $35 million.
Keep going.
This is 100. Did I forget anyone? There's $125 million essentially that is what. And Cohen said this. He said this to John Heyman. He was like, "Next year there's a lot of dead money. They got a lot of dead money, dead stadium, dead fan base, dead in company." City Field.
So that's my whole thing, right? You've had Billy Eppler come in here, and you gave him an open checkbook, and he's made some investments that didn't work out. I don't want to say bad investments because there's again, if I had that same checkbook, Max Scherzer is a top pitcher, Verlander is a top pitcher. You wouldn't expect them to have, the difficulties that they had. Verlander more so that he was injured and came out and just rounding into midseason form now. But Scherzer, was he the same 20 strikeout Scherzer that we'd known? No, right? You could tell that right away this year. What was really interesting is that what Duquette had said to us. Check out his numbers, especially with the slider, ever since the sticky stuff, where he just had rosin and sweat in his hands, right? His slider has never been worse. And whether that's, they keep talking about the baseballs feel different, the rosin is different, whatever it may be. Scherzer's never been the same this year. And he lost the feel for his slider, which is usually one of his go-to pitches, is his changeup and slider combination that made him one of the best pitchers in baseball. I get all that. So I can't fault him for those things. But it was the lack of depth, especially at the upper levels. Those 6-year minor league free agents that are on the cusp of being in the big leagues. And we saw a lot of guys, one of the things about COVID was in that season, it was bodies, literally just bodies that you had to put up there. And you saw A-ball kids going up to the big leagues where you would never see that ever before. So if you were just getting bodies and able bodies, you had to stockpile them in AAA, knowing that you had the cream of the crop that you went out to get and pay money for at the big league level. You couldn't have question marks at the AAA level or even AA level. You had to have a little bit more certainty, that extended depth of this guy's a decent player, this guy's a decent pitcher. We can bring him up and he'll be serviceable. We haven't had that. So spending the money and the repurposing of the money, and I think the life lesson that they'll learn is stretching it a little bit more, not investing it in just two places, stretching it a little bit more so that you have greater depth. And it's not just prospects. You need guys that can flat out get the job done. But having said all that,
essentially we got to wait 3 more weeks for Ronny Mauricio.
That's pretty much I don't get it.
Which means he'll make his home debut. Guess what? He'll make his home debut if that's the case against Shohei Ohtani.
Didn't you just start Rafael Ortega? Didn't you just start Rafael Ortega's clock early?
Ortega, actually, he's been in the majors. I guess
I saw that.
I don't think I had heard of him, so I was like, "Well, who is this guy?" But he's, I guess, a journeyman. But essentially, if that's the case, his home debut, because the Mets are away when the 19th happens in St. Louis, will be against the Angels. How about that? Mauricio comes up against Ohtani, and there's the tickets. The Mets getting their weekday tickets sold. On top of this, and I tweeted last night, you got rid of churro nachos for salad. I mean, don't let that go. don't let that get swept under the rug here. That is criminal. But let's just give a summation here, because there's a lot of negativity, and I get it. First off, if this is the direction they're headed, they did a good job of retooling the system and getting process. Because I know people are going to say, how could he be negative? Look at what they turned these old starters into. They're 40 years old. Look how bad Scherzer was. Verlander's starting out bad. Look at all the money that they had. They're still paying a lot of the money. And I know Steve Cohen's got endless pockets, but clearly he doesn't if they're not going to say we're going all in next year. That means that he doesn't have endless pockets and there's a lot of dead money. But they got good prospects, and those prospects could also be trade chips. You have so many shortstops, you're going to trade some. You have so many outfielders now, you can trade some to maybe go out and get that pitching talent. To go out, they're going to be trading prospects for a starting pitcher, because they can't just sign 5 free agent starting pitchers, because you need the depth. They're not all going to come to the Mets, and there's not a million of them out there. There's some mediocre ones, and the Mets might stack up some mediocre ones. Maybe they get a Snell, who wouldn't be a bad number 2 or 3 if they put him with Senga. Quintana so far has been solid, been giving you quality starts, doing a good job, earning that contract. I'd be shocked if they just traded him away. He should be slotted in next year. But they have the ability to retool. They have their top 10 prospect list looks a lot better. Totally understand that. Good job in that front of Billy Eppler. But this tweet, spot track, very interesting. When it's all said and done, the Mets will have paid out at least $171.5 million, max $189 million to Scherzer and Verlander for the 3 prospects, Gilbert, Clifford, Acuna, and a total of 59 combined starts. That's almost the payroll of 5 major league teams, Figgy, for 59 combined starts and 3 prospects that we won't know yet who they are. We expect at least Acuna to maybe be here next year, one of those other guys to maybe be here next year. We don't know what they are. $190 million. It's incredible.
I don't know. Like I said, Steve Cohen is an investment guy. But if your return on investment right now is that what we just talked about, then you start looking for another guy. You know what I mean? Like, you had faith in this guy. If I'm investing with someone and I say, hey, here's 10 grand, what can you turn this into? And they come back and say, I got you a couple of little things, not the big thing that we talked about, but I got you a couple of little things and a nice shiny watch. Is that good? No, that's not what we looked for. That's not what we talked about. That's not when you came here and I said, open checkbook, do what you have to do. And after 4 months, you say, no. What I meant to say was, it's the problem with the big league club is that the minor leagues is depleted. What I have learned about Billy Eppler is his ability to communicate is awful. Communicate with the media, communicate with the fans. I can't even imagine what his communication is like with the players, because it seems to be non-existent. When everybody's getting traded, and it's not a fire sale, and if anybody's watching, you can see the smoke around me, and it's not a fire sale, right? And you trade away your closer with, 5 games left before the deadline? You trade away your closer, then your number 1 starter, who's been with you the longest, which was Max Scherzer by default, starts questioning the organization and says, we need to have talks. And even Brandon Nimmo says, yeah, somebody needs to talk to us. Those guys are locked up to a lot of money. How are they not in the conversation? How are they not being told, hey, this is the plan? How are they not told, hey, guys, real quick, before the media comes in here, let me explain what just happened. We traded David Robertson because we got an offer that we feel is too good to pass up. Now, this doesn't mean that it's, we're tearing it all down. But what this means is that we're listening to offers, and this is the direction that we're going currently. But say that so that when they're getting interviewed and the mics are being thrown in their face, they all look like the deer in headlights, had no idea what's going on, had no idea what to say. Give them one message to say. The Yankees are very good at that. The Yankees are you never get headlines out of Yankee interviews. What you get is cliches. So we know what the cliche would have been? I'm not in the front office. I'm not sure what's going on. My job to go out there and win ball games. We heard Pete Alonso say that, right?
Yeah, and you said that last week. It's a very odd way to operate. And, Billy Eppler's tombstone will say, sign Shohei Ohtani, traded Hall of Famers for prospects. That's not a LinkedIn I want. My LinkedIn page is pretty impressive. I've worked at a lot of places. I've been everywhere in this industry. I'm proud of what I've done. Billy Eppler, it's a very mix. And if you see a Mets fan, one, hug them and pray for them. Two, let fans console. Like, obviously, Frank the Tank and sometimes even me go to extreme measures, and I get it. But we put money in this we put money in this team. We go to a lot of games. We pay for a lot of things, a lot of games, jerseys. The jersey behind me, I pay for that myself. I didn't get that. The Post didn't pay for that. I bought an Amazin But True jersey. That was like $150, $200. I bought this sign above me at Astoria Street Festival. This picture, I think, was given to me by an older roommate. I didn't buy that one. But mostly everything else, I bought. I invested in this team. So there is frustration when hearing not competitive, punting. Let's finally just play that quote. So it made me lose my mind. Billy Eppler spoke on a Zoom call and kind of did a lot of mumbo jumbo about the sites and Vegas, and we're probably not going to have the same projection next year, which sounds like a 75-win team. And we went through that enough with the Wilpons. I've been a fan since 99. You've been alive since 1970, you old man.
Whoa.
We've seen so many losing seasons that when you have we got the money, we're on our parade, we're on our high horse. I'm on my high horse before the season. I look like a clown, which is just a day that ends in Y. But I look like a clown when I say, DeGrom, go enjoy irrelevance in Texas and the Rangers and the Mets. We're going to win a championship here. The tables have been flipped over. It's the other way around. The Rangers get Scherzer. They're in first place. And the Mets are in the toilet. I mean, what a turn of events. Mostly due to this guy, Billy Eppler, who fans on Twitter are applauding because he retooled the system and got prospects. Listen, 2026, 2027 and beyond are bright. But the harsh reality of the near-term future is that the Mets aren't a World Series contender, and that's why I'm pissed, and a lot of Met fans are pissed off, because the direction and the near-term direction, and even long-term. I mean, if Epler's part of this team, how do we trust him? And how do we know Stearns is going to save us? How do we know he's going to come in and save the team? He might. He's done good things in his career. He's a New Yorker. He's a local guy. I really hope he is the savior, and I really hope he is in charge of all baseball decisions. But when Billy Eppler is still here and is on a 4-year contract, is only in year 2, the 101-win season that might have been a fluke may have bought him another year. He might not get Can in the offseason. I hope he does because of everything we talk about, the miscommunication, everything. He might get Can, but we don't know. So let's play that quote. Let's play intern Nick. Let's hear what Eppler had to say.
But I know I did state, with a lot of you when we were talking about it, that, going into 2024, that we wouldn't have the same odds, that we did maybe going into 2022 or 2023, kind of looking at like the preseason odds, whether you want to look at, some of the, some of the forecasting, platforms that go out, and The Athletic or Fangraphs or Baseball Prospectus, or even if you want to look at what the, sports books in Vegas are saying the Major League Baseball over-unders are. But I had articulated that going into 2024, we don't see ourselves we'll having the same odds that we did in 2022, 2023, but we will field a competitive team in 2024.
Forecast, AccuWeather, Al Roker. It's cloudy with a chance of meatballs at Citi Field. It'll be storming over the stadium. Here's the forecast. I'm Billy Eppler. Maybe that'll be your next job. Be a weatherman, not a general manager. You might be better at that. Tell me what's going to happen tomorrow at 6 p.m. in the hourly weather, because lie to me, Figgy. I'm sorry. If he's going to, apparently, if that's what he's telling everyone now, he didn't lie to Scherzer. Everyone tweeted, why would he give him the truth? He just wanted him to opt out. He gave him the truth. He gave him the harsh reality that next year's not going to be a winner. And I don't think he lied. Everyone's like, Billy Eppler's not that smart to lie to Max and then not. I'd rather him lie to us and say, we're going to put together a championship team next year. Figgy, imagine the ticket sales. How are they going to call a fan base? Hey, you want to buy season tickets? Your tickets in August and September will be worth a total of 4 cents on the dollar. I mean, they will not be worth a penny. Like, it just sends a bad message across the board, and it's bad business. And man, I feel bad. And those honestly, when the ticket people call, I might answer just to console with them. I always turn it down, or they'll text me, and I might just say, I need a console. By this point, they haven't been hitting me that much, so maybe they've heard the podcast, or they've seen me walk around the stadium eating lobster rolls. But like, they have a hard job moving forward.
You want to talk about bad business, and we keep going back to this. Take the human element out of this for just 2 seconds, and I'll get back to it. Put a pin in that. I'll come back to it. Let's just talk about bad business. If you're telling your investors, as you called yourself, Jake, and I commend you for being an investor.
I own 1% of the Mets.
Oh, you wish.
I wish.
As an investor, you just heard the CEO of the industry that you're interested in tell you the projections don't look good for next year. So we're going to make a product.
Watch your language.
You want to invest in that? Is that what you're looking to do? Is that what you're looking to do? Not just invest your money, but your time, your energy? Or is it time to start looking elsewhere? I know usually you're a fan because of location, but man, you got the MLB package. You can watch anybody you want, right? They need to start being a little bit smarter with what they say, because things like projections and fan graphs and websites, how many of them are right? If they were right, there'll be a lot of people winning a lot of money in Vegas, right? Because hey, these are projections. Let's throw down our money on these projections. The beauty of baseball, we'll go back to the human element again. It's that human beings play this game, and you give your heart and soul, and you run through a wall for your teammates. And you don't ever say, well, the GM said we're not supposed to win, so we're not going to win. But that's the message that you just put out there. And now the players have to hear this every single day from media.
It's a bad mindset. Like, these players must be
the most
demoralized, defeated.
The most defeated mindset I have ever heard. And you're talking about not this year, where, okay, you could see who this team is after 100 and some odd games. You could see who this team is torn down, from all the veteran players, and you're losing 2 of your top ace pitchers. You can see that where, okay, it's a lost season. It didn't happen the way that the projections said it would when they were given a 77% chance of making the playoffs. But does that mean everyone that has to go and suit up every single day is going to go out there and not care and not try hard and not give their all to try and win a ball game? Because that's what it looked like to me last night. It looked to me last night like guys were just like, screw this. Who cares?
And you also got to think, like, the message it sends to free agents. This is why I don't think they're going to get all these starters. The message it even sends to Ohtani, who wants to go to a winner. What?
I just told you.
What team is here's what they're gonna do, Figgy. They're gonna be signing a lot of pitchers to 1-year deals. That's essentially what they're gonna sign fringe starters to 1-year deals, because
nobody's taking
here in the long term.
Deal. The only way
Michael Lorenzen might and Alex Wood might. Those are the guys you're gonna end up getting. What guy is gonna trust this system unless Stearns? I mean, Stearns is definitely going to be a better
speaker. Nobody's
That's
coming in going, oh, my God, Stearns is there? I'm going over there.
Exactly.
He's so cool. No, they don't care about that. They don't even care who the manager is, really. Honestly, unless they have a really good relationship with him or they respect him the same way that, you heard Max talk about Buck Showalter before Buck Showalter, we're like, oh my God, I have utmost respect for him, would love to pitch for him, that kind of thing. But nine out of 10 times, especially if there is going to be a turnover on top of everything else that's going on, dude, you're talking about the harm that you've done to the organization. Billy Eppler's message, just that single solitary message, and him trying to explain it even further by using nerd talk of forecasting. It would be like saying, you know what? The lottery is $1.05 billion, but don't play it because you're probably not going to win. And somebody goes out there for $1 and wins the $1 billion for $1. What is it? $1 on a dream, right? That's the motto. You can't do that. People live on the dream, the mindset of next year could be our year, or this year could be our year, whichever it is, wherever you're at that point. No team in spring training has their manager go in front of the team and go, the projections say we're not going to be very good, so let's make them right. They say, screw the projections. We're going to find a way to win every single series. We're going to prove everybody wrong, including our own GM.
And
who might not be the GM.
That's just an obvious message. Like, to come across and say this, and this is why I say it's like a punt. They're punting. It's fourth and inches, and they're punting. Like, they have a core in place where they're not incredibly far from the playoffs. They're far, but not like they're not off the spectrum from being a wild card team. It's just a piss poor message to send across the board, to send to your own employees. Like, we're going to be an 80-win team. Come on down for expensive tickets at Citi Field. And this is why I tell people, you're a sucker for buying a plan, for buying season tickets. Yeah, the food. Not even that. They're replacing churros with salad. I mean, they're not even making food-wise decisions.
Get over it. It's part of the trade. It's part of the teardown. You don't like it? The projections say salads are better than the churros.
F your projections. Go in a suite. Go to Candace, get it, buy a suite, and send them. Tell them we send you, because that's how you got to take in a game. You got to eat good, you got to drink a whole lot, and get hammered to watch Rafael Ortega play center field. I mean, and how about that? Nimmo getting hurt on that day, the day. Like, it was a comedy of errors.
Yeah, it might also have been I can't believe this is all happening. I need a day. I need a mental break.
I think that's a quad tightness my ass.
I need a mental break.
I got heart tightness. I got heart palpitations.
Look, man,
put me in the IL.
There's nothing worse for players than it was too soon. It felt like it was too soon, right? You said you would ride it out to the end. I mean, you saw the trade deadline. You saw the guys that were available still. The mediocre moves left and right. There was no superstar that left, no Ohtani. So what were you doing? You held a lot of really good chips. You might have been able to push it even further, right? Maybe people panic. Oh my God, we haven't made a move yet. Let's go to the Mets. They have really good players still. Let's go get some of those guys. And you could have maybe gotten more, or you could have gotten less. Who knows what the projections would be? Who knows what the forecast could be? But it's called, what are you telling your fan base? And I said the same thing with Hearts earlier about the Yankees. What did the Yankees just tell their fan base?
They said, we're done this year. Let's hope Aaron Judge hits 60 homers and carries us. We're done.
More so than anything, what they told their fan base was, see you tomorrow when you'll be paying anyway to come watch us. And
see you for our terrible looking bobbleheads. Like, everyone complains there about how bad their giveaways are and how like cheap looking they are. And it's going to be that's what reels fans in at this point. These last 2 months for both these teams. Yeah, the Yankees are closer, 3 or 4 games out, but it's giveaways, food, a date to the ballpark, a ballpark date. Like, it's not like you're going there and be like, I can't wait to watch this guy hit third tonight. Like, that's not where you're going there for. And that's scary in New York City. That is a scary thought with owners with a lot of money and everything in the world. So let's close it up, because we've been going on a while. And I'll say this, like, we're just going to keep it real here in Amazin But True. Yes, prospects retooling, all is good. But if you want to, be sold this bag of goods that this is fine, the franchise is in an incredible direction, we're keeping it real with you. So go to another Mets podcast. Go to my other guys if you want to hear about the prospects, how great they'll be, and how this was an incredible trade deadline. I'm not going to say it's incredible. I'm sorry. So I'm not going to switch my opinion. Figgy, I think we're in lockstep on this, that it's very frustrating, but we obviously hope the prospects pan out. We hope the future of this organization is bright.
They better.
Yeah, it has to be. So I'm not going to just applaud Billy Eppler for doing the obvious and getting top prospects for Hall of Famers. Like I'm not going to pat him on the back for being, like, good job, little puppy. Here's the forecast. Great job. Like we're just not going to do that here because I think that would be laughable. But if it is a fire sale, what it was a fire sale, and the Mets are trying to put out a fire, and this stadium will be on fire for 2 months. So enjoy the last 2 months at Citi Field. We hope you still listen to us. We'll still have fun on this show. We're going to try and stack up some great guests for you for these last 2 months to try to get you through, because I'll be honest, I'm not going to be watching every game. You're not going to be watching every game. You might watch more than me, honestly, because you have a daily show on Pix 11. I have this show. I will still watch. I will still go to the ballpark sometimes. I'll go to that Angels series. I'll go to some giveaways. I will not be there at the rate that I have been going, that I've had gone in the past, because I hate the message that's sent across. And again, he should have lied and said, we will try and win next year. And let's hope that his message is irrelevant because he's fired. Now, if he's fired after the season, everything changes. If Billy Epler's gone, then it's Cohen, Stearns, and whoever they hire else as GM. This whole message, this whole thought may change, and we may be a little bit more positive about 2024. But right now, how could we?
Well, look at it this way, right? The core of your team is still intact. So a true fire sale would have sold off Lindor.
Alonso was the name we were thinking about. He's only got one more year.
Right. I mean, so you were, like I said, with the Soto trade, if that's the direction you're going, you want to get younger, you want to bring in guys that nobody knows, then go ahead, go get yourself 5 prospects for Pete Alonso. But at the time, Pete Alonso's batting more like Dave Kingman, with a 200 batting average. And although he's putting up the power numbers, he's finally starting to look like, he's not hurt. He's hitting more home runs with regularity, ever since he came back from the injury in a record time where everybody thought it was 3 weeks. And what was it, 8 days? He was like, oh, I'm okay. I can play. Go further than that.
You wonder if they try to trade him in the offseason. Like, that's the next step. If this is not going to be a contender,
you wind up offering. So what's going to happen is they're going to offer him a deal. He's going to mull it over. He might not take it at first jump. And then that's when you hear the reports of Pete Alonso being dangled to see what they could get in return.
I would extend him tomorrow. Like, get it done.
They should have extended him while we have our franchise when he was batting a buck. When he was batting a $170, right, coming out back from the injury, that's where I would have extended him and said,
he might have not wanted to do one there. He might have wanted to wait it out. But after the season, I think you got to extend him.
You got to try. But again, depending on who his agent is, he's looking at the market, because the market for, he is not Aaron Judge. He is not the two-way player that Aaron Judge is. Defensively, running the bases, all those different things. He's a prolific home run hitter, RBI machine. But his batting average, of course, is not where he wants it to be. But exactly how much are you willing to spend for that? And is it replaceable? Because Clifford, your boy, is projected as an outfielder, but also could play first base. So that's another one. When you talk about projections about this team and can they compete, the core is still there. The core is still there. You still have 6 or 7 guys in your lineup. The baby Mets are going to play every day on the way on out. So you're going to see exactly who they are. And if you want to trade them and get some other assets back, for a Vientos, you like Beatty, you want to keep Beatty, but Beatty's batting 230. Let's be real.
And making bad errors like he did last night.
He's been making bad errors, a ton of bad errors. And that comes with, playing every single day, having to have that mental focus. It's not a physical thing. It's not physical gifts. It's the mental focus on every single play, Alvarez is the same thing behind the dish. They stole 5 bases off him yesterday. And it was like he didn't care. He didn't care. Listen, the Royals can only do one thing, and that's steal bases. But how are they getting on? You're walking people, pitch selection, make them hit the ball, play, better defense all the way around. And the pitch com thing, where he almost causes the balk because he realizes that he's saying things to the pitch com and nobody's responding. And he puts his glove up and looks down and he causes Walker to balk. That's another thing. These things can happen, but you rather they happen now so they learn from it, because it's a lost season. So tag that up, right? But the lineup is still pretty much the same, except the younger guys are going to get a chance to play and establish themselves a little bit better. Then you have the guys that you got from the trades that can compete for jobs for next year. But the bullpen has to be better. You got 3 pieces coming back at the back end. We talked about already with Diaz, Ottavino, and Raley. And then you go and you look at the starting rotation. That's in shambles. And you knew that when you traded Verlander. That was going to be in shambles. If you had a top 3, then filling in with 2, or if Peterson or McGill project to be your number 4, then you get one more guy and push them back to a 5. But you need at least 8 or 9 starters, bro. Have we not learned that already?
And that's the negative when we're looking at the future. And we'll close on this because we're gone for like an hour right now. But there's a million things to talk about. It's the last show that actually matters. So like that's why this is the extended version. It's like the 14-minute Sugar Hill Gang, the full extended version, which I'm actually excited. Next Friday, I'm going to see that big rap concert at Yankee Stadium. I'm going, and Sugar Hill Gang's one of them. 50 Cent, Wiz Khalifa, Snoop Dogg, Run DMC, everyone and their mother. Literally, there's mother like Trina. Like there's everyone's there. I cannot wait to go to that. That's be a rare trip to Yankee Stadium in the final 2 months of the season for even Yankee fans, I'm sure. But we'll talk about that. I'll have a full rap concert reaction. That'll be your next show. Will be after that weekend. As next week you get a little vacation from the pod. Maybe we'll record some interviews. But yeah, that's the thing. It's there are some positives, but the rotation's the thing. It's like you don't need 5 great starters to win. Look at the Orioles. Look at some of these competitive
these teams.
You don't need, and I get, but like selling the bag of goods you're not a competitor and then trying to get competitive pieces is like a weird. It's like I'm just confused. Yeah. So it's very confusing. But that's the thing. If the back end's good, remember Diaz back is going to be huge for next year. That's going to be great. And that's going to be things that, season ticket holders, guess what's coming back? The trumpets. Boom, 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 boom. Like that's what the ticket reps are going to sell. They're going to sell the trumpets. They're going to give out trumpets to the first 25,000 fans. But there's still so much needed with starting pitching and starting pitching depth that's not in your farm system and it's not in your roster. It's Senga, Quintana, and then Carrasco won't be back. I doubt. I mean, maybe they bring him back for cheap, but it's Senga, Quintana, and then go find 5 other guys. Unless you put Peterson out there right now, the rest of the year we have to watch Senga, Quintana, Carrasco, Peterson, McGill. McGill is a 10 ERA in AAA. So as much as we love meeting Mama McGill and we loved meeting Tyler, his numbers don't even deserve a trip up, but they're forced to because they got no one else. So the vibes are low right now. The future is bright in 2026 and beyond, according to Eppler Cohen. And
his projections.
Let's just pray these prospects pan out. Good job getting elite prospects. Bad job fumbling this mess. Bad job by the roster, too. The guys just did not perform, and hitters, we hope they turn it around. They did good last year, bad this year. Hopefully good next year. We'll close this episode of Amazin But True next. All right, Figgy. That is as close to a marathon that I will run on this podcast as my fat ass sits here sweating with the ring light and no AC. This is where you wish you just had central AC. My AC is so loud, it sounds like my snoring at night, essentially. It's loud. So if I have it on, you'll just hear air flowing. And we need some air. So we're going to close this episode of episode 167 of Amazin But True, our New York Mets podcast from the New York Post.
Thanks to you, Andrew Hartz, and the intern, Nick Guzman. And as always, thanks to you, Jake, for producing the show. Subscribe to Amazin But True on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google, Amazon, or wherever you get your podcast. Subscribe to the New York Post Sports YouTube page to watch all episodes. Find that Amazin But True playlist. Give us a thumbs up below on YouTube and comment your thoughts. What do you think of the Mets trade deadline moves? Also, what guests would you like to see us interview in the upcoming episodes? Follow us on Twitter at Amazin But True, at FiggyNY, and at Jake Brown Radio.
Yeah, let us know because it's going to be very guest heavy, I think. Those Thursday shows could just end up being guests because I don't know. If I react to every series, I'm going to lose my mind watching every game of his team. Now, when Mauricio gets here, it'll get fun. You'll have him to watch. But, I mean, we'll see Beatty, Alvarez. Alvarez has been the silver lining. He's fantastic. The bomb last night, and I kind of knew when he hit that it was only 6-4. I'm like, I don't know if they're going to win this game. Yeah, you're going to get one run automatically with the runner at second. But and Raley, he probably was having a weird day because he didn't know where he's going to be. So I'm going to excuse Raley. He's been so good that he was due for a bad one. Of course, it comes against one of the worst teams in baseball. That's baseball, Susan. But his thoughts probably were all over on Tuesday because he was a guy heavily talked about trading, and I'm glad they kept him. Some of his beliefs I don't necessarily agree with, as it's been documented in the past, but I think he's been a great pitcher. So I think with that $6.5 million option, that was the one good thing that they did or didn't do was trade him. And Ottavino, we like as a person, and a little bit indifferent on him as a pitcher, but he's got that option. He could choose to stay or he could choose to go. I would imagine for that money and being in his home, New York, he would stay. So you got 3 guys there, and we'll go from there. Well, I will be back either talking about forecasting the weather or talking about the Mets on Monday after the Mets. I don't even they go to Baltimore. That's right, because I have a friend said, if you want to go, you can come. We have a hotel room. Like, I don't think I should waste money going to watch this team. I'll enjoy it, Queens.
Come on, Jake. Don't give up just yet.
Yes. If they won last night, they would have been like 5.5 out. And it would have been like, oh my goodness, they're going to tease us. But now they're back to 7. You almost want them to lose now. So you don't want them to get too close because then it'll just piss you off. So we'll be back on Monday. Stay tuned for that. I think we should just get rid of closing the show with "Let's Go Mets." Like, I know it's tradition, but is it time to retire it? Like, should we change it to "Please send help"? Please fire Eppler.
SOS.
Should we say
and as we always say at this time, SOS.
Yeah, let's do that. Let's do this one for that, because that is one of my favorite songs in the Mamma Mia soundtrack as well.
Oh, good God.
3, 2, 1. SOS.
SOS.
I like that.